Here's a man who knows his way around a good steak, Kurt Helin from NBC Sports and ProBasketballTalk.com. Kurt, how are you?
I'm doing well. I've gotten older. I find myself eating fewer steaks than I used to, which is, maybe that's the problem.
Is that doctor prescribed, or is that just you trying to make better choices?
Mostly the latter. Yeah, it's not doctor prescribed, but
I had
trying to pick my spots. And now, if I have a steak, like I've got to have a good one. It's got to be done right.
Yes.
Like I'm not messing around with like mediocre steak anymore.
We look. You've probably gotten to meet or be around Craig Bolerjack a little bit. Longtime play-by-play guy. He's a icon here in the state of Utah. He's a man's man. Like we look at Bowler as many people look at John Wayne. And I had him on the air a week ago, and we were talking about steaks. And he's like, "Yeah, get that steak, get a little medium well." And I'm like, "Wait, what? Did you just say medium well?" He's like, "Well, yeah, I like a little dark." I'm like, it's almost like when you see your dad cry for the first time. It shattered me inside to know that Bowler likes his steaks medium well. It hurt me to the core.
Yeah. That's medium well is the number of people around the NBA, people I know in general who like their steaks well done, stuns me because I can't.
Really?
I want mine mooing.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm.
Run the cow by the table and let me just rip it off. That's
pretty much.
Yeah, exactly. Oh my goodness. All right. Best road steak. I know everybody's fired up about St. Elmo's because that's where the Final Four was, so everybody's talking about that. I did Nobu once in Vegas. That was solid, but I can't. I think those are probably the two.
Nobu's, it's kind of a sushi place, but they've got really good meat.
Yeah.
I also did Cut in Vegas once, which was Wolfgang's Puck's place that I think there's a couple of, and that was spectacular. So that's the one that comes to mind off the top of my head.
Nice. All right.
But I don't. Yeah. It's weird. I tend to hunt out funky ethnic things.
Oh, nice.
Too.
All right.
So it's kind of cool.
So
it depends.
You've got the Jazz now. The tanking's over, and it's now time to win and win at a high level. And those are the expectations. Jazz fans are like, okay, we gave you this. You made the trade for Jaren Jackson. You hope that you have a top 3 draft pick, but you got a starting lineup next year that looks like Keontae George, Ace Bailey, Lauri Markkanen, Jaren Jackson, and if they can figure out the Walker Kessler thing, throw him in at the 5. They feel like that should be a lineup with some pieces on the bench that should get you into the playoffs. Would you agree with that assessment? It looks like we lost Kurt. We'll try to get reconnected with Kurt here. 97.5 the KSL Sports Zone. But we talked about this yesterday. I think those are reasonable expectations for Jazz fans. Now, I'm not saying that's going to happen. You never know how the injury situation is going to play out. You never know how a lot of the other elements are going to play out before it's all said and done. But if this team stays healthy and they're able to add some pieces, keep some pieces in place, I don't see why you can't expect this team to at least bare minimum be a play-in team, if not a 6 seed in the upcoming, in next year's playoffs. I think that's, by the way, that was a little playoffs. I think that's honestly a reasonable expectation to have if you're a Jazz fan. Now, again, a lot of things have to go your way. You have to stay healthy. But you saw this team for a brief moment when Lauri Markkanen was out on the court with Jaren Jackson, and this team looked really good. And we talk about the defensive issues of this team. Well, you just throw in a defensive player of the year, a 2-time All-Star in Jaren Jackson. You throw in a healthy Lauri Markkanen. You look at Ace Bailey, and hopefully he makes a jump from year 1 to year 2. Keontae George, who is knocking on the door of a trajectory of what might put him in an all-star game before it's all said and done. And look, there's so much to be excited about. There is a lot to be fired up about if you're a Jazz fan. And I know the last few years have been hell for you. Totally get it. Understand it. But you just know that, hey, there's a light at the end of the tunnel here, and that now it's winning time. And so you can have expectations. Your expectation over the last 2 years was to lose. And you got grumpy every time they'd win a game. That's how it was. They beat Memphis, a few games ago, and everybody's like, doggone it, why'd you have to do that? Why'd you have to blow out that team? Guess what? Those days are over with. Now you celebrate wins, and that's all you have. And your expectations as a fan is to be in the playoffs. That's where you want to be. That's where you expect to be. And that's totally fine and totally understandable. Kurt Helin joining us right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Kurt, we apologize for little technical issues, but what I was saying is
that would have been on my end.
Nah. Whenever anything happens, you just say it's Lloyd's fault, and then we move on.
Yeah, well, obviously. Okay.
But I said before we lost you that Jazz fans now are looking at a starting lineup that looks like if Walker Kessler can be figured out in restricted free agency, Lauri Markkanen, Jaren Jackson, Ace Bailey, Keontae George, who knows what you get in the upcoming NBA draft. And Jazz fans are like, okay, we gave you the losing. We understood it. But now it's time to be knocking on the doors of the playoffs. Is that a fair assessment to make with this lineup?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think it's funny, Ace Bailey, depending on where you land, Bailey may be the guy who becomes sixth man out of that group. And we'll have to, look, Will Hardy gets to play around with it. Maybe you have to rotate the three bigs at the same, maybe they don't all play nicely together. That's a huge lineup, but, you've got time to play around with it. And that said, I think this is a team that's, look, the West is ridiculously deep, so it's not going to be simple, but this is a team that should be looking at a top 8 kind of seed and making the playoffs next year. Like, that is a legitimate goal, a legitimately good goal. And maybe they're better than that. We'll see how everything shakes out. But right now, without even knowing who they draft, at a bare minimum, I think that's a really fair goal for this team. And Jazz fans, man, it's been 3 years. You've put up with plenty.
Yeah.
That's like maxed out losing. You can't. I think 2 is really ideal. 3 sometimes is okay. In this case, was just kind of the way it worked. But anything longer than that, and I think you really start to hurt the fan base wherever you are.
So if you can lay out, do you know essentially when that coin toss is going to happen for the Jazz and whether they're have the 4th best odds or the 5th best odds?
I do not. I have not checked in on that.
Okay.
I keep checking in with the league, but that's more about what they're doing with Luka, not like anything else.
Even Austin Ainge yesterday wasn't exactly sure when we kind of pressed him a little bit on if he knew. So he knew it was probably coming up next week. Thought it might be on Monday, but that would essentially, if the Jazz win that coin toss, they're at 4. That means they're guaranteed to hold on to that draft spot. But the more importantly, that they just want to get into that top 3. I think if you get in that top 3, then you have a chance to really, really, accelerate your drive to get into the playoffs.
I'll even go one more. I think it's top 4.
Really?
I think Caleb Johnson out of North Carolina, 6'10" wing. Like, he's a little more of a project, but frankly outplayed Boozer and Peterson when he was head to head with them. Again, you're going to have to do some juggling to fit whoever into the Jazz lineup. But I think that he is another guy who's fully capable of just walking in and having a real impact on day one.
So that's what it all boils down to. The lottery will take place coming up on May 10th. And then after that, next year at this time, what do you think that lottery looks like?
First off, it's amazing how tanking is going to stop, but the league is going to take credit for it because of whatever. I'm trying to think of the radio-friendly word, manure that they shovel this summer. It's simply this: it's not a deep draft.
Yes.
It's not nearly the same, and because of that, you're not going to get the energy to tank that you got this year. Where part of it is too, it's not even like, okay, last year you're like, man, I could get Cooper Flagg at the top of this. If I'm near the bottom, I've got to help my odds for that. And with the flattened odds now, even more teams might want to jump in that. But this year, it's like, hey, man, if I end up anywhere in the top 8 or 9, I can get a really good player, like a really good player. Like, that's more motivation than most years. So, yeah, this year was particularly bad. Next year, they'll be like, look, the tanking's better. And you're like, yeah, it's because the next 2 drafts are less impressive.
Yeah. There is, and I've said this too. I'm glad you mentioned this because 3 years ago, you had Wemby. Last year, you had Cooper Flagg. This year, you got the reincarnation of 2003 by a lot of accounts. And so everybody's fired up for this. And then at that All-Star game next year, I'm not sure where it's at, but wherever the All-Star game is next year. In Phoenix, Adam Silver's going to get up at the podium and say, these flattened odds, they all worked. You see this? We've really put in a dent in tanking. Stop it. No, you haven't, because there's nobody worth drafting right now. There's nobody worth tanking for. You've had 3 iconic drafts with altering players in Wemby, Cooper Flagg, and then this one. And that's why people went all in on those. And then if you don't have that, then nobody cares, and people are going to, obviously adjust accordingly.
Yeah, exactly. And wait, but, and I don't know what it is this far out, but 3-4 years from now, when the next franchise-changing guy comes through like that, guess what's going to happen, man?
Yep.
The teams are going to tank to try to land that player because it changes. And the thing is, owners are good with it, because if you're not good and you go out and land your Cooper Flagg or your Cade Cunningham or whomever, you just made your franchise, A, worth a lot more, and B, just better, just flat out better on the court. I mean, again, Ryan Smith got a big slap on the wrist, and it's not my money, so it's easy for me to say. If you guys get a top 3 pick, he's going to take that $500,000 as cost of doing business, man. It's fine.
Oh yeah. No, if somehow, considering where he went to college, if the Jazz were somehow able to get A.J. DeBonsa, they make that fine back in about an hour and a half in jersey sales. Oh, God, yeah. And by the way, that means you got the number 1 pick. Yes. I don't think he's going any lower than number 1. I mean, there are reportedly some teams where there are really people still high on Peterson, but he's, as you saw in person, he is a bigger risk now, even if you think the upside is higher. If the risk is higher, and I believe AJ's close but lower risk, the other thing GMs like is keeping their job, man. At the end of the day, if you go into this draft with a top 3, and by the way, one of them probably doesn't pan out to be – I hope that's not true, but statistically one of them is going to pan out to not be the franchise. Yeah.
He'll be good but not great.
There's a Darko in there somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. Something is going to happen. It always does. Let's hope it's not Darko, but but that's how you lose jobs, man. That's how it's fine. And the art of finding guys at the back of the draft, which Memphis has been really good at. Like, you're kind of like, really, Memphis? Yeah, Memphis is really good at finding guys deep in the draft. That's become a real skill too. But if you blow this one at the top, that's how you lose your job, man. You passed on who to get to whom?
I remember, this is how long we've had you on the air. I remember before I guess right after Oklahoma City drafted Chet Holmgren, and I remember thinking, because of his injury issues, that could be a real bad situation for a GM, because if you draft him and he's injury-ridden and he becomes Greg Oden, you're going to get fired. If you don't draft him and he becomes a superstar, then you're going to get fired. They took him, and it certainly has panned out very well for him. So, I mean, the risk-reward is through the roof when it comes to the draft.
It does, and it speaks to, and I think it's something that the Jazz have been working towards, organizational stability, where that GM's job necessarily isn't on the line because of one draft, where the coach isn't on the line necessarily because of one season, goes a long way to letting you take those kind of risks. Now, Oklahoma City nails those risks way more than most teams. They're really good, but in the front office, but having that stability to take that swing and miss, and I'll use this, there's people asking about the Clippers and now what do they do? And obviously there's the whatever's coming with the aspirations, suspensions, and whatever. But they're like, oh, man, they misfired. I'm like, then you take that Kawhi Leonard, Paul George swing 10 times out of 10. Didn't work, but you make the smart play, you make the big chance, and it doesn't always pan out, but they're not going to get in trouble for it. And that means that next time something big comes up, they'll take another swing because Lawrence Frank isn't losing his job.
Kurt Helin, NBC Sports, ProBasketballTalk.com, joining us. All right, true or false? Doc Rivers has coached his last game in the NBA.
True. I don't think – never say never, because he gets a lot of midseason hires. He's somebody who can step in and be competent. But I kind of think his time is just passed by in terms of that job's going to go to somebody younger. He's not going to want to be in on a developmental project. He's going to have to be just the right spot. I think he'll be picky. He's going to land. I would be shocked if he's not broadcasting for one of the networks next year. He's good at that. And some of the stuff he's doing where he is really committed to not crashing the offensive boards and getting back on defense is not the way the NBA has trended. And I think I don't want to say the game's passed him by. I don't think that's necessarily true, but I think he's not cutting edge anymore. And I think you're going to get teams just sort of like done. Like, nah, he's old and he's not cutting edge, and let's go. Even if we're going to retread, there's better retreads out there than Doc at this point.
True or false? Opening night in Golden State, Steve Kerr will still be the head coach.
True. I think he's going to do what Pop said he was going to do, which was, I'm going to coach until Duncan retires and walk away. I think Kerr is genuinely going to do that with Curry. Like, he's going to ride out the Stephen Curry era and then probably transition into their front office. I don't think they'll let him just walk, but I'd be surprised if he's not coaching next year. They're so tight as an organization. They're just not really worried about it.
It's going to be a really interesting offseason for sure, because there's a bunch of storylines, and this thing could get just with a lot of, I guess, changing of the guard, if you will. With Golden State, obviously their window is closed. Giannis, wherever he's going to end up, because, I mean, true or false, Giannis will be on the starting lineup next year for Milwaukee. That's a big false, correct?
Correct. Yeah, he will not be back. I mean, never say never, but no, he is not going to be back. They're going to move on, and it's going to be interesting to see. That is a terrible rebuild situation.
Oh, man. Yeah.
Because they traded away all their assets to go all in. They've got $22 million a year in dead money for like 3 or 4 more years on the Damian Lillard buyout. Like, it's a mess. So that is a brutal job now. And he will be, there's going to be multiple big names on the move. John Morant's going to be on the move. I would be surprised if LeBron's back with the Lakers. Obviously Giannis is the best of that group, but there's going to be some big names switching teams next year. You're going to see a lot of shuffling.
By the way, have you? I ran it by somebody. It may have been you. The Bill Simmons LeBron theory, where he signs a 10. Where he signs a 10-day with each team in the NBA. And
no, I hadn't heard that one.
Yeah, and so he makes his tour. His farewell is he signs a 10-day contract with each team in the NBA just so he can rack up jersey sales with each individual team.
That is really funny.
It's actually not a bad idea, honestly. Hey,
it's so funny. Like, I really enjoyed the 10-day era in Charlotte. He was like, that was the best 10 days for Jeff.
Yes. That's why we have the Derrick Rose honorable mention of a Utah Jazz man, as he was part of like a couple trades that was immediately bought out. But I think James Harden was once part of a Jazz trade too, and was immediately bought out.
I believe that is, yes.
Oh, Russell Westbrook was too. Yeah, it's a
Russell Westbrook era.
Yeah. We could put together quite a team in their prime of guys that were at one point, one way, shape, or form, traded for by the Jazz. Kevin Love and Yusuf Nurkic went on the podium yesterday for the Jazz in their locker room cleanout, and were just absolutely talking about how great the Jazz were in treating them and their families and the trade and things along those lines. How much does that help the Jazz and their perception across the league when guys say this? Or is it still, look, I'm 23, 24 years old, Utah's not going to be on my radar?
Well, I think you kind of got to the heart of it. It's going to be a harder sell with a younger player. But for guys who have been around for a while, like Love, like Nurkic, who are, look, I've got a wife, I've got kids, I'm a little more settled. I'm not hitting the club every night, as far as you know. But you know what I mean? Those kind of players hear that kind of thing. The agents make note of that and say, hey, for the right player, this is a really good spot. This is a spot where you can settle and be comfortable. Phoenix has had that rep for years. Like, guys like Phoenix kind of as a more settled place than some of the other ones. So I think it helps, because with the core guys you've got next year, and this starts to look like a playoff team, getting those veterans on cheap contracts who are just, man, I want to play somewhere, they're going to treat me well, we're going to win. And that goes a long way to bringing them in and bringing in the kind of quality bench guys you need.
Kurt, next week we'll be talking playoffs, man. Always a pleasure. Thanks for your time, and let's do it again here soon.
I look forward to it, buddy.
There he is, Kurt Helin, NBC Sports, ProBasketballTalk.com, who's kind enough to join us every week right here on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.